Warning: the following podcast contains chilling stories and accounts of the unexplained. Listener discretion is advised. Some tales may be too unsettling for the faint of heart. If you dare to continue, proceed with caution and prepare for the unknown. You have been warned. Now into the world of Explain Strange Podcast.
Okay, so Leprechaun is here with the Explain Strange podcast, and this will be season 2, episode 4. Today's guest is none other than Laine Crosby. Laine Crosby is an investigative medium. She's been on TV before, several times. She's written books. She's an award-winning speaker. She has a whole lot. I mean, I'm just looking at all that. I'm looking at all that she has, and it's a lot. it's kind of one of them things that, man, you just can't. I mean, she does books, but you can just sit here and just read her go to her website here, and it's got a lot of information and tells you a lot of things she did. She's done a lot more than what I expected, and I'll tell you where I first saw her. I saw her on the Ghost Brothers. And that was on, it was one of the Ghost Brothers, and I want to say Haunted House Guest, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, we're going to get into some of these topics, and we're going to talk about them, and let's see what Laine Crosby has to offer here, which I'm sure is a lot. And the other thing I want to mention with Laine Crosby, I was very, very pleased, or I was excited, if you want, that she actually agreed to do this. So, without further ado, I say that a lot, don't I? Hold on. Get my pages right here, because she's ready to go. Okay, we're going to bring her in. So, let's welcome Miss Laine Crosby, everybody. Ready? All right, here we go. Boom, and then there she is. There's Laine Crosby right here. And how you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, Slap. Glad to be here.
I appreciate you doing this. When I reached out to you, I was like, whatever. I'll give it a shot, but you shocked me. And I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, you're so kind.
I was trying to explain some of the things, just who you are and some of the deals that you've got, some of your attributes, and you have a lot. I went to your Laine Crosby Investigative Medium.com, and there's a lot. I mean, I know you got books and whatnot, but you have a lot. I knew you or first seen you from the Ghost Brothers I think it was Haunted House Guest.
Mm-hmm. One
of those episodes. That's where I had seen you. So, then I started reading up on you, and then I looked and I was like, man, this might be, a lot of reading for me to do. I might need a partner to come in here and help me, which I used to have I used to have two different co-hosts. They had to move on and do their other thing, and they helped me out in season 1, but they were unable to come out in season 2. So never know, one of them might cut loose, but so.
Well, you're too kind. I think that just means I'm old.
I bet you ain't older than me. I know you ain't. So, and I try not to use the word old too much. I use seasoned. So
I like that. I like that much better.
we'll go with that. I first of all, I could get into your biography and all that, but you have such a a big list. It's unbelievable. I didn't know you had all this with you. I know that according to what I'm reading, when you first started out, you well, not started out doing this, but when you were younger, you used to, or somewhere along the line in the beginning, you were cataloging cemeteries.
Yeah,
That's correct.
my dad was a genealogist. So I, I was the weird kid in school. We would come back, no matter what the age, 8, 14, and you'd go around the classroom and say, what did you do this summer? And I would say, well, I scrubbed tombstones and, went hiking and found found dead family from 200 years ago. And people would just kind of look at me and go, okay, she's weird. But yeah.
Right.
That's what we did. My dad was a historian and genealogist, and we traveled around, explored family history, and I got the bug. I love it.
Wow. I mean, I know that I go out and I clean my son's, headstone and whatnot. And of course, he has one of the plaques. It's one of those, the brown ones on the ground, flat. So over here in Texas, or Houston, Texas is where I'm at. And a lot of those, they do have some with headstones, but a lot of the cemeteries over here choose to do that for some reason. They don't allow actual headstones, which is kind of weird.
I've seen that now. My father has one as well on the ground.
Yeah, and to me, I think the bronze ones that you have to buy, they're very costly. And in case anybody doesn't know that, or want to know that, they cost a lot. They cost more than the actual headstone because it costs a lot of money to get that thing.
It'll be interesting to see. I think that they will probably stand the test of time better than so many of these headstones that I see from, so long ago.
When I go out there to maintain my son's marker,
So
I guess we
sorry.
call it.
Yeah.
And no, it's okay. And I think that the reason they do that, this is just my my thought. I think it's so they can cut the grass easier. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. I mean, 'cause they maintain it. I mean, it's not like they just let the grass grow and all that. They really don't. But they do a good job, whatever. But I think it's so they can get them lawnmowers right through there. They don't have to, you know what I'm saying?
Probably so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I might be wrong. I might be right. But either way, so you're an award-winning writer. You're award-winning speaker, author of several books. And with the books, I noticed I counted 3. Am I right?
So far, I've published 3.
Okay, so you're probably working on another one. You ain't gonna say nothing.
Working on 4 or 5 other ones.
There you go. That's one way to do it. It's kind of like when I do some of these podcasts in season 1, what I was doing, I was kind of like backing them up. In fact, I got a cooking deal coming up too. That's coming out closer to June. But I'm already doing videos and I'm saving them, I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting. And then when I bring them out, I don't have to do anything, just post them. So I don't have to work so hard.
That's great. Yep, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, because I don't work right now anyway, so it's no big deal. One of the books is Investigative Medium, The Awakening. Was there, when you give it the title, The Awakening, I was curious, were you planning on doing a part 2 for that? Or, okay.
Yes, I have a series, and I'm working on 2 and 3 both at the same time. I should have sent you a copy, and I'm happy to do that. I apologize, didn't think about it.
No
this
problem.
Is the first one, Investigative Medium, The Awakening, and it's kind of like Eat, Pray, Love meets NBC's Medium. It's the story of how I literally woke up one day in my house. We moved from Atlanta to the grounds of an old Maryland plantation from the 1800s, and I heard the voice of someone talking to me, and it woke me up. And it was a woman who said she said, I'm a slave. And so she was one of the enslaved here on this farm, which was at the time Sunnyside. Now it's outside of Rockville, Maryland. And so, I said to her, I was so confused. I was just waking up. And she said, I have a son about the same age as yours. And I said, wait a minute, that's my son, not your son. And then I realized I was just confused. I didn't know what was going on. I thought I was dreaming it. And she goes, no, I know he's your son. And I felt this just sweet calmness come over me, and it woke me up more. And I said, what is your name? And she said, Jeanette. And I opened my eyes and I saw her there, and she really defined beauty. She was gorgeous. And I came to find out from her and wrote this book, a lot of it just direct stories from her about her life. And it really explores the emotional, turmoil of being enslaved. I don't think a lot of people explore the emotions as much as the physical, but it talks about her life and who she was in love with. There was a love triangle. It was just fascinating to me, and she became one of my closest friends here. I didn't know anybody here, and I had 2 young kids I was raising, and she would tell me, she'd wake me up in the middle of the night and tell me if my daughter was sick. But at this particular time, she I didn't know who she was. My husband came home, and I said to him, I think I talked to somebody who's dead, and I heard them. And he's like, yeah, right. Because he didn't even believe in ghosts. And I said, no, really, can you just sit down with me and see if you can hear it too? So we sat down here. This was what is now my office was our living room. We sat back here on the sofa, and he's like, I got nothing. I heard nothing. I want to leave. And I'm like, no, you can't leave. You got to wait for it. So we sat, and I tried to blank my mind, tried to bite my cheek. I tried to do all these things to try to figure it out. And nothing came to me. And finally, as he was getting more impatient, I heard, I touch his hair at night. He reminds me of the man I once loved. And I said, Chris, she plays with your hair. You remind her of her lover. Chris did not like this. Chris took off. I don't know where he slept, but he didn't sleep in the bed with me that night.
I know that's right. I'm with him.
So the next day, he came home for lunch, and I was anxious to leave. I didn't want to mention anything because he was real nervous about it all. And as soon as he left for lunch, I felt like I needed to go find out what was going on. I looked all over the internet for the historical society around here, or anything. I couldn't find anything. So I got in my car, and I drove to the end of our driveway, which is not far. And I just sat there, and I felt like I needed to turn right. And I did. I turned right, and I drove a little ways, and we were kind of out at the time, we were way more out in the country, because I was used to living in the city of Atlanta where everything was noisy and it was so quiet out here. On my right, just down the road, was this beautiful manor home with tons of property, and it had, the driveway framed by the, pine trees as you go down. And so I pulled down the driveway and I parked, and I got out, and I saw that there was a parking lot there, and I was started up to the door and saw these little cabins behind it, and I felt that warm energy like I had the day before. And I said, Jeanette, is this where you once lived? And she just said, yes. So I ran up to the door. I don't know if I banged on the door. I don't know if I screamed. I don't know what I did. I don't remember any of that. I was excited. I was scared. But I knocked on the door, and the county historian came. And he said, yeah, can I help you? And I said, I live right down the street, and there are people talking to me, and I can't see them. And I sounded like I was crazy. And I tried to regain my composure and said, I think we have a ghost, and I want to talk to somebody. What happened here on this property? And he said, well, this is the county historical society. This is where we keep all our records. He goes, come on in, let me get the archaeologist for you. And I walked into the lobby of this old manor home, and he went up like 2 floors of stairs, and a woman came down. And as I was waiting for her, I looked over and saw this old picture of the family that once lived there on the wall next to this old grandfather clock. And I saw my husband's face staring back at me. He was a dead ringer for the man who lived there. Wow. And it all made sense. Jeanette had grown up with this man and had been in love with him. And so that's where the story of the book starts. And that's where the story of my psychic life starts as well. And I wasn't happy about being psychic. People think, oh, this is great. But there was stuff coming at me from every direction, stuff that I would know that I wouldn't want to know, things about people, things that would happen, car wrecks, like the car accidents right before we would get into people would get into them, and just all kinds of things that I wanted it to go away. And I prayed, and I thought, maybe this is something that's mental. I had hoped for that, but then I had a friend in the neighborhood who helped me catalog everything. We went down to the county courthouse and we found all the people that I had talked to here on this farm in courthouse records. And I knew then, okay, I can't make this go away. I just have to accept it and figure out a way to help people with it. So that's kind of where my journey starts. My psychic journey starts.
And I actually had it here on one of the questions. I got sporadic questions all over this tablet here that I got. And it was actually, when did you become a medium, or how did you know? And so it's kind of like, there we go. So if anybody wants to know how it worked and how you kind of figured things out, I guess the book itself, Investigative Medium, The Awakening, would be a good book to get.
Yeah,
Right?
I go into it all. I actually, that was when my psychic abilities really awakened, and that was 2004. And it was in 2006 that I woke up one morning again, and I woke up listening to my husband had turned on the television and walked out of the room, and it was a press event covering the missing Jessica Marie Lunsford, the missing little girl. The father had gotten up and was telling everybody, please look for my daughter. And that was when, and this is how I started the book. This is how I saw through her eyes where she was, and I couldn't help. And so that's when, I guess, being an investigative medium actually started after that. And I talk about that in the book, and how I saw through her eyes and knew that, people were looking for her and they were close to her but weren't around her. And my husband said, I said, I've got to tell somebody. And I was pretty freaked out about it too. And he said, you could never get through. And if you did, they'd think you had something to do with it. And I'm like, I don't care. I just need to help them. And because of that, I think that I've always tried to help people, especially with kids who are missing. And
yeah.
Anyway,
and the movie that, or the most famous slogan, "I see dead people." It's okay. Is it similar to that? Do you think that the writers had contact with somebody that was like that, or maybe one of the writers had that kind of instinct or something like that that wrote that movie?
I do.
Or is it near that? Is it that kind of like portrayed in a real way, and kind of like not really?
Well, I think the part that the spoiler, if nobody's seen it, we didn't know he was dead, but the boy knew. And I think that children can see spirits because they can see into the infrared spectrum. Many children can. My daughter, my husband has the gift of sight, and my daughter could see spirits just as they were in the room and what they were wearing. And she's helped me a lot because with my old eyes, I feel like if I can see them, anybody can. I see them in the dark at night. I have seen them as I wake up. I've seen them on NyQuil. I see them when I get surprised out of the corner of my eyes. But my husband has often sees them, like my daughter did for years. And it was just like the show. My son is not that way. He can hear very well and sense, but my daughter does see them like that. I love that movie. We just rewatched it the other night.
I like that movie too. I'm not gonna lie to you. I can watch that over and over. I mean, my wife gets mad. My wife will get on me. I mean, I'm just like anybody else. I mean, everybody's got that movie, or those 5 movies or 3 movies that I can see them year round.
Yeah.
Christmas Vacation, I think, is one. You never get tired of watching him fall off the ladder and all that good stuff. So, I guess because it's happened to me so many times. To be honest with you,
Have you
Even though I
seen
was in
those too?
military, combat engineer, and everything, when I came back here, I mean, once I grounded and got married and whatever I did, and I was kind of like a klutz like that too, because I was always like just wanting to get in there, and and I'd fall off a ladder and stuff like that. But I never broke any bones, so I'm good. So,
Wow. Well, I should be interviewing you. Sounds like you have.
knock on wood. Oh my God! Don't even try that. Hey, doing all this, what? I mean, maybe it was that the first that you told me about in the awakening, but I don't think it was. What would be your most memorable situation? I mean, like that you were able to help somebody, that are rewarding. Maybe let's use that word.
Gosh, there are so many because I used to do this constantly all the time. I would go out, I would do investigations. I work with historians and archaeologists all over this area. And I live close to DC. I live in Maryland, but I do a lot of work in Gettysburg with Mark Nesbitt there and Dennis Hawker. Um, he's in Perry County, Pennsylvania, and I have a book with him. And just kind of all over the place. And I would say, would you say you asked most memorable or most scary? Most memorable. Oh gosh.
Let's go with that, and then we'll do the scary one. I see you're making me write stuff down. We'll be here all day, all night here. Careful.
Well, there are different things I've learned from. I think spirits have taught me a lot. There have been a lot of different things I've learned along the way. And I think that I've really grown a lot. I started out as a medium and a natural remote viewer, and then I learned how, I took classes with government remote viewers. They were at Fort Meade in the 70s and 60s, and so I took the remote viewing classes and astrology and bioenergy healing, and now I'm a shamanic practitioner. So every step of the way, I've learned how to do things more efficiently and better. I think that, I guess one thing that really caught me, as a Pisces, things really hit me that I'm very sensitive, not just sensitive to feeling and touch, but sensitive to emotions. And I was at the Fredericksburg Country Club, and they called me down there, Fredericksburg, Virginia, and they called me down because there was a ruckus upstairs in the attic. And this is an old home that belonged to Augustine Warner in the early 1700s. And I went upstairs and I found a woman and a family of people, and they were Irish indentured servants. And they had actually died there before the country club was built, but they were loud, clanging things, throwing things around. And it was a little scary because there were so many of them. And one of them, the youngest, was like an older teenage son. He was running at me and screaming at me. So the mother was crying, and she had two babies in her arms. And so this happened early on in 2009, and I had to understand how to use energy, and how to stand there and not be afraid when something happens to you, because I just felt like I wanted to scream and I wanted to cry, but I was learning my abilities as an empath, and I couldn't do that. So I sat down on this dirty floor in the attic, and I just sat, and she couldn't see me because she was all caught up in her emotion. And I waited and I started to cry. And once I started to cry next to her, she noticed that I was there because we had the same emotion. And she started to tell me how she killed her child. And she showed me her child that had died. But she was projecting what this child looked like in her arms. And it turned out her family had come, like I said, from Ireland, and they were trying to go to a fort and hide out. They didn't want to be indentured service. They came here and they wanted to run away, and people were chasing them, and they burned down the log cabin where they were. And she was in the attic of the log cabin, which sat on this grounds, and she smothered her child so it wouldn't, die
Suffer.
of right. So it wouldn't have pain when it died, because there was no getting out. And I had to really explain to her that it's not easy being a mom. You have to make really hard decisions, and that she was really a good person and God would take her, and she didn't feel like God would take her. And this is, I have a lot of these conversations with soldiers on the battlefield. And she finally was okay. I asked a priest to come down through heaven, and the priest, she saw him, and then she saw the two little children who had died, and she realized they weren't in her arms. She wasn't still stuck in that time. She had moved on, and then she could move on, go to heaven, and be healed and nurtured. And so I think that's there's so many lessons I've learned. That's just one of them, and it's one of the first ones about energy and fear, and not feeling fear. I know when I first started this work, all of a sudden I had this awakening, and I could see spirits. Like I saw Jeanette next to me, and I saw Bill, who was another one of the people here at on this location, this property. And it was really scary at first, and I asked God to take it away until I could handle it, and then give it back to me. So I do get it back from time to time, but it's not a constant thing.
Yeah, and from what you're saying to me, and this is my opinion, so it seems like this could become a real emotional roller coaster.
It can
Because
be.
from learning, because I know that in the military you see a lot of things happen, and you see
Yeah.
a whole lot, and you see differences. You know what I'm saying. Some are good, some are bad, some are sad, some hurt. I mean, as a parent, if I had that ability, it would be hurting me to see and hear different things like that. I mean, for me, and I'm just curious: is it kind of like that with you, or is it kind of like you've kind of like? I don't like to use the word callous. I mean, that's what they taught us to come out in the military, that you were just a little callous or whatever. But I just want to know: does it really affect you in that way, or have you kind of like blended into where I can accept it now?
Well, um, there are different emotions that I have. If I'm bringing through a spirit to somebody to tell them to give messages, that spirit will often cry, and then I'll end up crying because I'm feeling them so much. And I'll have to tell the person, no, it's okay. Your relative is okay. They're just crying because they're happy, or they're crying because they're sad that you're not happy, but they're okay. And then
So
there's
you kind of get comfort out of explaining to them and putting them in the right path in that way. Is that kind of what it go, how it is?
exactly, exactly. And I have a lot of people. I mean, everybody cries when I tell them and loved ones come through, but my goal is really to help them understand that, they come to me and say, tell so and so I'm okay. And I'm like, so and so knows you're okay. You can talk and they can hear you. You can communicate and keep this going on. So I think it's really important that people understand that when somebody has died, that's not their end, because we're spiritual beings, and we come into this world as spiritual beings, and we just go into our bodies for a little bit of time, and then we go back to being spiritual beings like we were before for an eternity. So we need to continue the relationship with our loved ones. They're not dead, they've just transformed. So we can continue talking to them. We can continue, letting them know they're there. Like I pray for people who've died, and they often come to me and say, thank you for that. I pray for their energy. I pray for their
Yeah.
loved ones to come around. I pray for any help that they need, because they're still there. I mean, not necessarily here, they've crossed over and gone into the
Right.
dimension we call heaven, but everybody can use prayer. And I think that those who've lost loved ones need to understand that they can still be around us, and you can still talk to them. With a pendulum, you can still, hear back from them. You can ask them to move the pendulum and ask them questions. Um, so there's all sorts of ways you can, talk to the dead, but they know what's going on, and you
Do
can.
you bring up or discuss some of this in your other book, How to Cleanse Spirit Energy?
So I'm working on a book on how to talk to the dead. I don't have that out yet. How to cleanse spirit energy. This is really about negative spirit energy,
Oh, okay.
what we call demonics. Um, I work with a member of I have worked with a member of John Zaffis's team, and he is the only layman who works with the division of the Catholic Church that handles demonic possession. So I learned a lot, and I put it here in this book, and it tells you how to do your own cleansing, and it also will help you know how to keep a cleansed home. So it's kind of a different type of book, and I felt like it was really useful after I did the Ghost Brothers show, because I had over 1,000 people write me right away with entities, and I couldn't help 1,000 people, so I had to get this book out, and I had it as a
read.
I know. Right, exactly. So I had it as a blog, and I just put in some of the stories that had happened to me before with bad entities, and I did it a lot from the perspective of, Catholicism. My husband grew up with a Jewish father and with a Lutheran mother, and he's like, the Jewish people have their own way of doing things. Every religion has their own way of doing things.
Right.
And now that I'm a practicing shaman, I do it differently, but I'll have my guides go and take care of things and destroy anything negative that's there. But I still think it's really important for people to learn how to cleanse themselves, because if I'm going to, like, if I'm at a dinner party and somebody is unruly, I can say, get out, you're not welcome here. But it's not my dinner party, so they could come right back after I leave. Same thing with the house. If they could go back to the same way of doing their things, or if I come in and get rid of it, then it can come back, because I'm not there to keep it away. So I like people to take ownership in getting rid of it by doing a cleanse, and
so like saying it's my house, or the owner of the house itself,
right.
or me as the king of my castle, and that's how I see it.
Yeah.
My wife don't, but I do. So, but let's say I would that book would help me, because I would be able to rightfully do it the right way, the correct way. Rid the house of the demon or the spirited or whatever. Am I right?
And you can do that. And people who usually, if people have something there and they know it, they can feel. So it's easier to get rid of it, because they can follow the directions, which are very simple, and pray it away. And, if you just it's a battle of the wills. If you just stay there and plant yourself and you keep praying and you keep demanding it leave, eventually it will. But I will help people. I don't charge for helping people. But I do have the book that people can help themselves. And my goal is to really empower people to do this themselves, because anybody.
Yeah, and that's kind of the key point I was trying to make right here was like, for people that have that issue or think they have that issue, that, if you're just not sure how to do it, because I know in a lot of the ghost shows, paranormal shows or whatever you want to call them, that come out, they tell you, like, first do this, hey, I always do this, but sometimes that might not be the right way, or it might not be the right way for you. So for that person, so buying this book or getting this book right here, and you'll have it, your hands on right there, and tell you exactly how and what to do in case you're having entities or problems with an entity.
It tells you. I think it's a really good way to help you not necessarily understand people want to know what's going on in their house, and I say that's not important. Just get rid of it. The more you
just get out.
Right. You're giving it thought.
But if you think about it, a lot of people, if I had anything going on in this house, which I don't think, thank God, but if I did, I'm not going to want to get to know nothing. I just want to know, tell me how to get rid of it, push the button or whatever,
right.
Because, it's like you said, like somebody at a party. If they're acting a fool, and you own the house, get out. I don't want to know why you're acting a fool. I just need you out,
I will add a caveat to that.
Okay.
So negative entities, there is a spectrum of negative entities. And, like people, they have different personalities. Like what you saw on the Ghost Brothers show, you saw me yelling a lot.
I'm going to get to that in a minute. I
Okay,
know.
I'll wait.
I really want to get to that. I love that. I'm going to get to that. So don't worry about that. We're going to get there.
So if you're going to deal with, I'll wait until you ask me. But if you're going to deal with specific negative entities, you often have to know what type of entity it is to know how to.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's just get into the Ghost Brothers
Let's
show.
get
Then
into it.
let's just go, because that's kind of like, there's a lot of people that follow Slap Recon that were with the Ghost Brothers site and everything. So on the graveyard shift and all that, we're graveyard shifters, and that's where I first seen you, and that's what really, to me, you were the only one in my that this kind of affected me, struck me, or caught my eye, because it was like you got to where boom, the world changed. When that's what didn't Dalen get pushed against the wall or
Yeah,
somebody,
yeah.
right? Okay, and then there was a point where you got aggressive, and at one point in there, and that's the point I was trying to bring up. Like there was a one part of the show where you just finally said, "Stop! You're not gonna." And you got directed with this entity or ghost. I mean, whatever you want to call them,
It was
spirit.
negative entity. Yeah.
Okay, tell us what was going on in that. What did you feel was going on in that house?
Well, first of all, when we started, I before I came on the show, I remote viewed the place, so I know what we were dealing with. I tried to get rid of some things before I came, and I saw a lot of stuff there. And how it got there it was actually, I think it was invited in by Lori's son, who didn't believe any of this. So I knew I was coming into a lot, and I didn't know. I knew coming into it, like when I walked in, I could see they will show you whatever your deepest fear is. So some people's deepest fear might be snakes. For me, I hate spiders. So I see all of these spiders all over the ground, but nothing big, but just a little, but a little's enough for me. And so when we started filming, I was very cognizant of, you have to go to the place where there's the largest entity, the biggest problem, and you have to get rid of that first. And I was really worried about protecting everybody, because I could see and know where it was coming from, but I didn't want anybody to get between me and it. So I took us into the bedroom where I felt the most, and it started escalating pretty quickly. And I could just feel it, and I know that I think it was Dalen behind me, or a couple of the guys were affected. Maybe Juwan too is getting sick, and I know that Dalen fell, and at that point I was like, "Oh no, you're not. You can't be doing this. They can't be." And the other thing was, behind me I was hearing growling, so I knew that there were a lot. And I think the growling was picked up later, but not when I was hearing it, because I'm clairaudient, so I could be hearing it. It could be too low to be picked up too.
Right.
So coming from this mirror, from behind this mirror, was this entity, and it was trying to make me feel sorry for it, honestly. But there was a lot coming out and affecting everybody. And my guides were telling me what to do, because some entities you have to be very quiet and calm, and put love on them, and then they'll go away. Those kind of entities were in their attic. So I spent 3 days there getting rid of this stuff.
Wow.
You didn't see that. You just saw, the biggest part of it. So I just, I let into it, and it started backing away and backing down. And it was this ghastly looking creature, like with no eyes, and it was dark. And, it looked like a kind of a stick figure, black stick figure, and it receded like into the mirror. And then once that was done, I think I don't know what was on, I don't remember what was on camera and off camera, but I tried to, pray in that room and go outside and start cleansing that area. And I know that there was some growling, and there was some on the right and some on the left. And it was a lot. There was a lot there, and it was a lot to cleanse very quickly.
These entities, or whatever in that particular facility or house, I think it was a house. Do you think that do they, because you would know one way or the other, they realize that you have something versus anybody else. Is am I right or wrong? Do they kind of like sense when you walk in? This person has an ability or something, or that's not how it works.
Yeah, a lot of times I'm told that. Yeah, but by the energy that's around me, a lot of times they know that I do, but don't know if I know I do or not. But this was a situation where, I told them, I said, they wanted me to come, and then they wanted me to come back and cleanse it, the producers. And I said, no, I'm sorry, I can't do it that way. If I'm entering that house, I'm getting rid of everything. I'm not coming back to do, to sit there one day and then next day come back, because it's going to be a lot worse when I come back. Because it's like, like in a war situation,
Yeah,
you see what their army is. You're going to go get more troops so that you can, take on that
combat it.
army. And I wasn't going to do that.
Right.
So I said,
Read the book.
like,
Read the book.
go and get it all.
Buy the
So,
book.
yeah, so that's what we did. And these entities were so stubborn. The ones I hit first were very aggressive, I'll say. And there were a lot of them there that weren't as aggressive. And so I took my time with those, and I just prayed and put love around them. But these were really aggressive. And so I started saying the Lord's Prayer in Latin. And you saw a little bit of that, not the whole thing. And we would just hear, like, it sounded like I got lots of EVP, and it sounded like air coming out of a balloon. And you'd hear growling, and you'd hear crying, because they would just go. They would leave as I'd order them.
Like smoke coming out of a chimney.
Yeah, it was wow. It was wild. But
I mean, like when you come up to something like that, and it's, I don't know really the word to use it. I mean, aggressive. I mean, I don't know what would be the terminology for that type of haunting. I guess more of an aggressive
it
one,
was an
more of an
aggressive
evil
haunting.
one.
Yeah,
Is
it
it
was evil.
aggressive?
Well, it was evil. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. And it
So
bothered.
when you come across those, I mean, do you kind of like step back? I mean, because this is kind of like military wise, we kind of step back, gain composure, and try to figure out, okay, come get our little strategy. Now we're coming in. Is that kind of like how you do it, or you just go in there and all of a sudden, boom, and you're like, you got to be ready, period?
Well, it got to be ready, but no,
Hmm.
I strategize it. My guides tell me what to do, because they know what's there, and
Okay.
they know what has to be done. And so I just innately, it's like they stick a thumb drive in me and just boot me up with this information, and they tell
I
me, and
got
they
you.
walk through it, and they say, and I had, I knew that I had this warrior angel behind me, so even though my back wasn't to a wall and I heard the growling behind me, between me and that growling was my angel. So I felt comfortable.
All right.
And, I think the only way to operate in situations where every instinct screams for you to run and cultivate, you know, I think in those situations where you want to run, you have to cultivate a really powerful sense of self confidence that dips its toe into arrogance. And so, standing there in front of these growling entities, I felt like I was on loose gravel, but I never let on. They never let
Right.
on. I mean, they never knew how I felt, because I just, came at them.
Right.
And
Never show your
never.
vulnerability. So
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
can understand that.
And it's
Oh
it's
no.
really a battle of the wills. And I knew my will was stronger than their will, because I wasn't about to leave until they were gone.
After Dalen kind of went up against that wall and was going back or falling, because he hit that wall. And how did he feel about that? I mean, I know everything wasn't on camera, because I know that
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some things they just don't put on camera because they got to edit it out, just like this video. But how was his composure after that? Was he kind of like still okay with it, or was he kind of like you had to let him give him a little time to
I
catch up a
think
little wind, or what?
I think they, if I remember, I think they wanted to take a break, but I was afraid of the escalation. So I think they may have cut the cameras for a second, because I think he felt like he was going to throw up. He was really, really sick, and it made me really mad at this entity. And
Yeah. You look like you were pretty pissed off.
I
So
was really
yeah.
upset. I didn't want these guys hurt.
Yeah,
Um,
you didn't want to lose. You didn't want to lose that battle, and it was obvious in the
yeah.
video. I mean, you were like, "There's no way I'm turning out. I'm not backing out right now, man. We're on. This is it. Let's do this." Kind of like
Well,
that's what I saw in you.
yeah.
Which that's a good thing. 'Cause I like that. It's always a good thing when that's like anything else, man. Sometimes maybe you do have to run, but then sometimes when you're already in control, don't back off, man. Don't let it go because if you're holding it, don't let it go because you might not get it back. So
Yeah.
you know,
I don't choose situations like that to go into, but
no,
if I'm
I
in
know.
it.
But that's why I was saying earlier, you're kind of already ready, mindseted, ready when you walk in to see what's going to happen, and when it does just blow up, then you kind of like got to get ready, be ready for it.
And
So.
Dalen's really sensitive. I think Juwan is too, but he's so sensitive. And I don't think that anyone realized how strong they were. And he was, you know, I was the camera has to be at a certain angle to film everybody. But I wasn't thrilled with where the camera was because I'm like at one point I'm like, you are standing right next to this entity. I'm going to have to
Yeah.
be, I'm going to have to do something to take care of you. To the camera person, I'm like, you got to stand over there, you know. So we were trying to work it out, and um, it was, before they came up and they had surrounded us. I had to get in
Yeah.
there, but it was interesting afterwards because I'm on the way back to the airport after doing this for a few days, and I'm exhausted. And I'm sitting in the car, and my guides tell me what I hadn't, I guess, really realized before. In that bedroom, that mirror was a portal. So I'm sitting there talking, and the Uber driver is there, and I know he thought I was crazy.
All
I
right.
picked up the phone and I called our producer, and I was like, Matt, get rid of the mirror now. The mirror is the portal. I didn't shut down that portal because I didn't think about it. I thought it was coming from behind the mirror. And I don't know why I didn't think the mirror is the portal. And so
Mm.
it was just so much going on. But I just knew it was coming from that corner of the room. And I'm like, you got to get rid of it. They took it right then and they got rid of it. They took it out to the barn, and apparently it had come from some um, antique store.
So it
I
had a
hear that a
history
lot.
already from
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah. I hear that a lot. A lot of antiques. People are bringing things home with them.
Yeah, I try not to buy too many antiques myself personally. I kind of like try to stay a little, kind of like right where I'm at. So if I
But
buy it and it looks old or whatever, I'll buy it, rustic, brand new, because
yeah.
that's how most of my stuff is. I like all my stuff kind of rustic.
Yeah. You can
So,
run your hand over it and also feel energy, but in this case, it was a portal, so it wouldn't have helped.
mm. Well, I do know that you were on other shows with the Travel Channel. It was Mysterious Journeys, right?
Mhm.
Okay, if I'm wrong, just say it's
Gettysburg. Gettysburg.
liar. Then there was a Chestnut Lodge.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
catch that. I
Wow.
didn't
You did
catch.
your research. Yeah. I was just
I
talking to Stacy Cohen yesterday, the producer.
uh,
Um, yeah. That was here in Rockville.
oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed that one. I don't know why I didn't catch that.
I might have a video on my site.
What year was that?
It wasn't a show, but it was a newscast. It was
A
on the
newscast.
news.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
'Cause I was gonna say maybe it was during my cancer fight because I didn't see I didn't watch a lot of TV during that time. You've done radio also. You've been invited on radio shows also, right?
I've done a bunch of radio shows. Yeah.
And I ain't even going to ask how many podcasts because I'm sure there was a list of them.
I
So,
haven't kept track.
right? Uh, I'm not going to leave out the last book. This is the last one that I have. The Secrets of the Clark Ferry Tavern. What's the Clark's Ferry Tavern?
So this is Denny, who I work with. Dr. Denny Hawker is he really wrote this book about an old tavern. He's written I don't know, 50 books or something. He's a historian up in Perry County, and he asked me to come and write. He asked me to come and do an investigation there and then write for this book. So I did the investigation and found more than we ever thought we'd find. The Tavern it's absolutely fascinating because it's still standing there, and
Where's that tavern at?
Perry County, Pennsylvania. It's north
Pennsylvania.
of Gettysburg, northwest of Gettysburg.
Okay.
So it was a place where people would come and they would eat, but they would take a boat across a ferry, and so the ferry was owned by the people who owned this old tavern, and it was the crossroads for everybody coming down from New York, anywhere. So it was a really busy area, and this is a story of my investigation, and it's really different than anything else I've written because I took it from the video and the tapes and my memory of just the confusion of everything that was going on, and I found that the guy who owned the place was a serial killer, and went on to do more work to find out where he put a couple of the bodies, but he's still there. His spirit was still there, and we had a fight like I did with the negative entities, and I wrote all about it from the perspective of exactly what I said, what they said, how I was figuring out what happened. So it's an interesting, but I'm working on 3 ghost tours in 3 different little towns, and one is in Fincastle, Virginia, to be launched this fall. And I talked with a historian there, and so this is a good book because he enjoyed looking at this book because it gives you insight into how I work with historians and a little bit about the tavern and some of the history there.
But either way, where can people get these books? How can we find them?
Oh, they're on Amazon.
Amazon?
Yeah, you can just put in my name, Laine Crosby, and the author page should come up with the books. These 2 are ones that you can kind of pick and choose what you read because there's stories in here. And my story, you could go right to, there's my story, and then there's other information that, But this one is kind of a cover-to-cover read because it builds.
That's the one I'm looking at.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that one. So
well,
that Laine Crosby on Amazon is all you got to do. All you got to look up, and you'll find these books. So anybody who's interested, and I'm sure y'all are. So
you just send me your address, and I'll put them in the mail to you. Whatever you want.
I know one more thing that I wanted to get into, and I know you're probably thinking, man, when does this guy stop?
No.
But it's
enjoying.
I know that you were in magazines. Phycology Today, in fact, was one of them that they did an article on you, if I'm not mistaken on that.
Yes, Catherine Ramsland reviewed my book. Catherine Ramsland is a forensic psychologist, and she's written 63 books herself, and she's a columnist for the magazine. And I was thrilled, happy to. Ancestry magazine covered me too before I wrote the book.
All right, I see that one. And then there was, you must have spent some time in Gettysburg, or a lot of time, because the Gettysburg Times even wrote an article on you.
Oh, yeah. Fred Snyder, he has since passed, but he wrote a bunch of articles. Nice guy. He was reporter there for the Gettysburg Times.
And then it even goes to the Baltimore Sun. So it still goes on. And there's probably, I'm sure, more that I'm not mentioning right now, but I mean, you're so well known, it's unbelievable. And I mean,
unfortunately,
I know I'm not going to.
Brothers Haunted House Guest was canceled because I was going to be on the 2nd season, and I was really looking forward to working with those guys more. I have to say, they are the funniest people I have ever worked with.
Yeah, I had a great time meeting them guys.
And it's fun to watch, but to be there, and I mean, there's so much that they cut out. They really should be doing comedy shows.
I think so too. I mean, I think them guys should have their own thing going.
Oh yeah.
I know that everybody has a life, but if you started this journey together, stick with it, because the way they did it, they started this journey together, and and everybody's used to the trio. They, as a team, they were really funny together. I mean, they really were.
I love these guys. I would love to work with them again. I really would. They're just,
I'm shocked. I'm shocked that Dalen hadn't reached out to you to ask you to meet up with him on one of his graveyard shifts.
Right?
Because I mean, I really expected you when he first started the graveyard shift. I started back then when they first started. He first started that, and I've been following ever since. And I was really expecting him to bring, I thought of all of them. I thought you. I know he brought Chip Coffee. If I remember right, he brought Chip Coffee on there. Chip Coffee came on one of his episodes. It was brief. It was on a screen. I don't remember the total. Well, not episode, the total show that he did on YouTube.
Well, maybe you and all your listeners can reach out and tell him that, because I would love it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely make a note in there saying that you actually reached out and tell some of the graveyard shift the people that run the thing, tell them, hey man, make sure you get a message over there to Dalen. She would love to reach out, on one of them shows.
They were so funny. We had there was this one point when we went in this woman's closet, and there were entities attached to like pillows and things that she owned, and I'm pulling them out and I'm arguing with them, and I said, you see, there's nobody left here. You just better go now, because you're eventually going to go, and make it easy for you. And the three of them just hopped into a comedy routine based off of that. And really, I mean, they could write comedy in Hollywood. But, and
I don't know. That's just my thoughts. I mean, in case Dalen, you're watching, he's probably going to watch this, and I'm pretty sure he is. In case you're watching, get with them two boys. Y'all get together and do it again, man. Y'all are good. Y'all are funny. We all want to see you again. You don't need the travel channel. You got this. Y'all can do it yourself.
That's right.
Hey, one last thing I'm going to mention before we cut this loose. I cut this short. Well, kind of like short. It's already over an hour. You were actually in marketing.
Yes.
I mean, It's kind of like a change. The world must have changed for you for this. I mean, I mean, you know what I mean? Because I know marketing. I know some people that are in marketing. A few of them I've met. I don't know because I don't hang. I've met, and I'm just saying. But from marketing into to doing what you do now, it's kind of like something. It's a whole different world.
It's big. I was at the Weather Channel. I directed the marketing for new media, the website, the radio and newspaper, Next Generation Technologies. I launched new...
You did some real marketing. You didn't do that. Yeah, marketing for a podcaster like me. You did real marketing. Not that I could afford a guy like that, but I'm doing good. I'm doing what I like to do.
You're doing great. Anytime you love to do.
I like it my way. On any of the other psychic mediums that come on the show, have you ever contacted with any of them? Kept contact? Met with any of them at any point from the Travel Channel?
Oh gosh.
Chip Coffee, Cindy Kaza, any of the other ones.
I have a lot of friends that are mediums, but there was one that she was a pet psychic, but she came on one of the shows and left. It was a pretty scary situation upstairs in a home with a mirror. We've kept in contact. I'm drawing a blank right now.
No, I expect that because this is a question you definitely weren't expecting, and I knew that, and I kind of figured. I was just curious, more or less, like because I wanted to open the door to see whether or not there was a world where psychics, kind of like who've been on the show, get together and they don't talk to anybody else, kind of a thing. I was just curious. I'm not trying to stir up any trouble in anybody. I'm not trying to do that. So I know sometimes people say things and everybody wants to create a controversy and everything. Slap ain't creating nobody's controversy, so just everybody calm down. I ain't trying that. So, but, I really appreciate you coming on my podcast. I really do. And I'm sorry that I didn't have one of the girl co-hosts that used to be with me. They would have probably been easier to talk to than me.
I love talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a lot better looking. So, but this is what you get. Okay. So that's just the way it is. But I really appreciate you coming out. I've reached out to a couple of more people from Travel Channel too, and I'm hoping that they're going to step in and try to. One agreed, or both of them agreed, but one of them is not ready yet. The other one kind of, I stopped hearing from them. I don't know what happened. So, I mean, that's just the way it is. You know, sometimes they want to wait for the big name, if you know what I mean. Probably you. They probably knew you were. Let's wait and see what it looks like with Laine Crosby first, before we get on that podcast. You know, we're all human. So, and I mean, if anybody doesn't believe that, wait till you meet the Ghost Brothers. You're gonna really see something. You're gonna really learn there. Because I know when I met him, we were like, he recognized me right off the bat. I didn't know, we never met in person, but me and him were talking. This is when he first started his graveyard shift, and me and him were always getting back and forth on Facebook and YouTube. And then when I went in there, he just looked up, and I said, "Hey, it's Slap." And he just looked at me, "Slap!" And he yells out real loud, in front of all these people, It's like, and everybody was like looking at me like, "Who's this guy? Who is he? Was he on the Travel Channel?" People were asking me, "Were you on the Travel Channel?" I'm like, "No, I'm just a nobody." So, but either way, it's been real nice having you on. I really appreciate you doing this for me. And
my pleasure.
You're a great woman. And you're just as down to earth as the Ghost Brothers. You really are. I mean, if no one ever told you that, you really are. You are just as down to earth as they are. And
thank you.
If anybody doesn't know what I mean, this is like meeting with Dalen and them. You are a very nice guest. I appreciate you.
Well, I've really enjoyed talking to you.
All right. Well, that's been Laine Crosby. I appreciate her coming out. Everybody, y'all wanted to see her. The ones who wanted to. The rest of y'all who were asking about her, there we go. And you've had her on the show. Thank you very much, Laine. And that's Laine Crosby, everybody. All her information is going to be in the comments or wherever I put them. You'll see them there. They'll be on Facebook comments, and they'll be on the Instagram. Wherever I put them here. I don't know. We'll put them somewhere. I'm probably going to be dancing a bunch of stuff across here through this whole video anyway, as I edit it. So thank you very much. And you take care, and hopefully we meet again.
Thank you, Slap. Thanks to everybody listening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.